Welcome, this is Qtv News. I am Mamudu Gajaga. Thank you for joining us. First, the main local business, international and sports news headlines. The draft constitution got a second reading at the National Assembly. Qtv accompanied our maritime officials as they inspect various points along the creek from Denton Bridge to Mandina Ring. The Gambia Press Union held a press conference to respond to recent decision to bar some media houses from covering proceedings at the National Assembly. An organization sets out to provide 10,000 face masks to children across the country. In business news, Thomas Cook, the travel giant which fell into liquidation, is set to return in a slightly different form. And could West Africa help to feed a post-Brexit Britain? We look at a proposal which may do that. In international news, as Mali goes through more political turmoil, one of its former presidents has passed away at the age of 83. The Shinzo Abe era comes to an end and he is replaced as Prime Minister of Japan by a close ally. In sports news, prison sentences and heavy fines are handed to a father and a son duo who were previously heavily involved at the top of world athletics. Those were the main news headlines. Thanks for joining us. Welcome and thanks for joining us. Now to the main local news. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Dauda A. Jallow, on Wednesday moved a motion for a second reading of the bill on the new constitution, giving members the opportunity to debate the general merits and principles of the bill. Alusise has the rest of the story.
Moving a motion for the second reading following the first reading on Monday, Dauda A. Jallow, Attorney General and Justice Minister, says the objects of the bill seeks to promote the promulgation of the 2020 Constitution of the Gambia and repeal the 1997 Constitution. This was followed by hours-long debate on the general merits and principles of the bill, attracting divergent views and reservations from both sides of the House on diverse issues contained in the draft. Deputies commend the drafter of the document, the Constitutional Review Commission, for coming up with a document that they say represent the views and aspirations of Gambians, both within and outside the country. The provisions in the draft, such as term limits and confirmation of appointments by Parliament, among others, are aspects lawmakers say will lay the foundation and enhance democratic values and principles.
I want to believe for the first time in the history of the Gambia that people were asked as how they should be governed. Consultation was done in a more detailed manner.
Let us support this constitution. How many millions have we put in this constitution just to make it pass?
Any activity related to this constitution should begin when the constitution has become, when the document has become a constitution and when it is in force.
Madam Speaker, constitutions are fundamental guides. No country can exist without them. Unless, of course, we are a dictatorship. So that's why when they are referred to Parliament, we need to critically look at it to see whether or not it will serve the purpose for which it was drafted.
Me, Honorable Speaker, is that the CRC, in some instances, while drafting this constitution, the 2020 draft, would just go directly and cut from the Kenyan constitution and paste.
We should not look at our national assets and try by all means to trivialize their efforts and their actions. You can only interrogate what they have done by going and write and show us where their flaws are and how they have plagiarized anybody. But essentially, constitutions, honorable, in terms of principles, in West Africa and Africa, they are talking about constitutional convergence. So the more we converge our constitutions, the more we move towards African integration.
While the repeal process is on and the draft constitution is said to be a progressive one, it is hoped that the draft will be implemented when and if adopted, bearing in mind the millions of dollars spent on the process. 42 members must vote in favor for this bill to pass to the next stage. Due to time constraint and in preparation for the State of the Nation address by the President on Thursday, the Speaker of the Parliament adjourned the session to next Monday for continuation. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cissé.
The Gambia Maritime Administration with 5 stakeholder institutions have embarked on a follow-up boat trip to assess the safety of navigation and the maritime environment along the creek from Denton Bridge to Mandinering. Meanwhile, tourist boat owners have expressed worry and fear about the presence of fishing trawlers at the ecological zone, claiming that the trawlers are a threat to their business and the maritime environment. Mamadou Lamin Choi was there, and this is his report.
From Denton Bridge to Mandinering, along the Bintang Bolong of the River Gambia, marks one of Gambia's ecological zones. Beautiful as it looks, it harbors fish species for local consumption and a source of income for tourist boat owners. There are claims that they are having ongoing trawling activities along the creek by Chinese fishing trawlers, resulting in damage to the mangroves. We accompany the authorities on this fact-finding mission. The trip covers the ecological zone from Denton Bridge to Mandinering, where fishing trawlers are alleged to have caused damage to the mangroves. Fishing trawlers are seen docked along the creeks at Denton Bridge and Mandinering, even after the Gambia Maritime Administration instructed their owners to get them away from the area for safety and navigation.
There were 4 boats here before when we came on the 31st of August, and we have instructed them to move all the boats to the designated anchorage area, which is an open water. If there is any problem with the hull, they could be remedied and appropriate action can be taken without the vessel being stranded.
The Banjul Fisheries Jetty is the landing and pilotage site for fishing trawlers, from which the Gambia Ports Authority manages and collects fees. Docking, trawling or maintenance activities along the creeks by the fishing trawlers might cause navigation problems and damage to marine life and environment.
You can see the channel is very narrow. Boats of this nature, to be difficult for them to navigate safely with other boats in this narrow canal. So smaller size boats could be acceptable, but these ones are big. So they must go to the area where the water is more open and space is wider.
Members of the Boating and Fishing Association of Denton Bridge, whose source of income is this ecological zone, have raised safety concerns about the fishing trawlers.
The main concern is trawlers that are plying this small creek every time. Although every time you talk to them, they will tell you it's not doing any damage. But we have seen them have accidents with our boats, and it's not once, not twice, 3 times on 3 occasions. The 3rd accident that we had here with them was with tourists inside. Can you imagine what image it will give outside the Gambia?
Though some mangroves along this ecological zone look healthy and productive, others seem damaged, an observation confirmed by some officials on this fact-finding mission.
The joint stakeholder boat trip will come up with a report and recommendations as to how we move as it relates to navigation of vessels in the creek and also the operations of all stakeholders, so that safety of navigation is sought and also the protection of the environment.
More fishing licenses have been issued to industrial fishing vessels, while our capacity to police, monitor and regulate remains low. The Gambia has a 200-mile exclusive economic zone, but our Navy patrol vessels can only reach 60 miles of it.
You must have capacity enough to exploit and police those waters. This is why we come into agreements, partnerships with our countries, neighboring countries, like Senegal, so that we conduct joint surveillance exercises at intermittent times.
Protection of Gambia's water and marine resources is significant for the lives and livelihoods of Gambians, and it is hoped that continuous fact-finding missions such as this one will guide policymakers in finding solutions to our problems. Mamadou Lamin Choi, Qtv News.
Following claims of discrimination by a group of journalists after they were denied access to the parliamentary chamber to cover proceedings of the 3rd ordinary session, the executives of the Gambia Press Union on Wednesday organized a press conference to brief the media on the union's position.
The media houses that were denied access to cover the proceedings said they were discriminated against, especially at the time when the Minister of Justice was appearing before lawmakers to table the new draft constitution bill. At the conference, the president of the Gambia Press Union, Sirif Bojang Jr., described the move as disappointing and unacceptable. Bojang said the GPU was not involved or aware of any plan or communication to limit the number of media outlets covering such important proceedings, adding that there was no blame attached to the 3 media houses who were allowed in, as they are not at fault.
From the point of the GPU, first, what I want to make clear is that the GPU at no point, directly or indirectly, was contacted by anybody, either the parliament or anywhere else, about this development prior to the refusal of a parliament to allow these journalists to enter the building.
Bojan Jr. also confirmed that the GPU is aware that there would be limitations to those admitted due to the physical distancing arrangement in the gallery at the National Assembly. He added that in such instances, the most ideal thing would have been to have prior discussion to make sure all media houses are accommodated.
Director of Communication told me was that they were doing this purely, and he said 100% on health grounds because of the COVID-19, and he said even the sitting arrangements of parliamentarians on the floor has been changed to give room for broader social distancing, and they didn't want to congest the floor. And so
Bojang said immediately the leadership of the union received the disturbing information from reporters on the ground, they engaged authorities at the National Assembly to give access to all media houses interested in covering the proceedings. The outcome of the meeting with the head of the communication and the clerk of the House is that the auditorium will be available for all journalists who want to cover the proceedings.
I mean, as far as you are concerned, you compromise something, but still we are not satisfied. And what we propose in the letter is that what about now we look for another option, a fresh option. How about at least journalists, cameramen and women to go to the floor and film from there. Then reporters, if no way that they can go in, reporters can use the auditorium. But then the camera crew to have to go in there instead of just iAfrica and others, for the camera crew to be there.
For his part, the head of ethics at the GPU, Mustafa Mbai, said the constitution of the country has not discriminated against anybody and that what the National Assembly have done is not in line with the constitution.
We will appreciate Parliament to help us in protecting our members from COVID-19, but not like this. There's a lot that Parliament can do for the Gambia president, for journalists in this country, and we all know that. There are laws that are protecting us from doing what we are supposed to do, and we want Parliament to work on that first. There are laws that we want that would enhance our work as journalists. So we are calling on the Parliament to work on those things first before saying that they were protecting us from the coronavirus.
Some believe the move by the National Assembly was badly handled and that hopefully lessons have been learned from the episode. Reporting for QTV News, I am Omar P. Jallo.
Gamco Trad, in collaboration with partners on Wednesday, launched an outreach program to distribute 10,000 face masks to vulnerable children across the country. Lolo M. Camara has the rest of the story.
According to Gamco Trap officials, the event is an important milestone in their promotion for the welfare of children in the country, as giving face masks to children will help greatly in the fight against the virus, as they are the most vulnerable during a crisis. Speaking at the launch, Bintu HK Fati, a representative of the Ministry for Women, Children and Social Welfare, said the initiative is laudable and worth emulating.
Targeting to save children from the impact of coronavirus is not only an agenda for action, but a smart investment. For without urgent action, this health crisis will become a child right crisis, causing disruption to society with heavy impact on children's safety, well-being, and on their overall future. Only through partnership we can keep millions of girls and boys safe, including children living with disabilities and girls at risk of violence, healthy, safety, and learning.
Princess Adeni Monahot, the executive director, Gamco Trap, outlined the importance of giving face masks to children.
Children of all ages in various parts of the world stand a chance of being infected through social association, community association, and above all, infection through their parents. Even though the harmful effects of this pandemic will not be distributed equally, it is expected to be more damaging for children in poorest communities and those in already disadvantaged situations. Children all over the world have been adversely affected by this pandemic in all sectors of their lives, and the Gambia is no exception.
Princess Munahal also listed the places where face masks will be distributed to children aged 5 to 18.
Serekunda Health Center, that's in the Sandicap, Nawe Cooperative in Westfield, Fajikunda Health Center, Kairaba Police Station, Bakau Gamtel, Jeshuan Clinic, and Ibo Town Junction. For Banjul Area Council, there will be a distributor in Mayoress Office, Albert Market, Ken Street, Terminal, and Havdai.
The deputy mayor of KMC, Musaba, said the initiative is important and that doing anything to prevent the further spread of the virus is commendable.
I'd like to commend you for your foresight, that is Gamco Trap, for catering for the children. Because most of the time we cater for the older ones, the strong ones, forgetting that the children are our seeds that we need to nurture to become future leaders tomorrow.
A demonstration of how to effectively wear a face mask was done by Naya, a youth ambassador for Gamcotrab, the Gambia Committee on Traditional Practices Affecting the Health of Women and Children. Gamcotrab has been in existence for more than 3 decades, and it's an organization committed to the promotion and protection of women and girls in the country. For QTV News, Loliam Kamara.
We will go for a short commercial break, and when we come back, the news continues with some more business, international and sports news stories. Do stay tuned. Welcome back and thank you for joining us. This is QTV News. The British global travel group Thomas Cook is being brought back to life, but as an online travel business. Exactly a year after the company ceased trading, stranding 150 holidaymakers abroad, including some in the Gambia. More in this report.
The collapse of Thomas Cook sent shockwaves around the global travel industry. After a year, a lifeline appears to have emerged even though the company went into liquidation. The relaunch comes as the travel industry faces the worst tourism crisis since records began. World Tourism Organization figures shows that international tourist trips dropped by 65% during the first half of the year, an unprecedented drop. The new COVID-ready website will initially sell holidays to beach resorts and cities in countries on the UK government's travel corridor list, including Turkey, Italy and some parts of Greece. Further destinations will be added when government restrictions are lifted, alongside more hotels and other types of accommodation. It remains to be seen if the Gambia would be among these destinations, as it seeks to open its tourist season in October despite a surge in COVID-19 cases. When the company shut down its global operations last year, the Gambian government spokesperson confirmed that the country receives up to 30% of its tourists from the UK. And Thomas Cook has contributed significantly in addressing air access challenges during the tourist season, accounting for 45% of tourist visits. The Thomas Cook Group, which operated 560 high street branches in the UK and a fleet of aircraft as well as its tour operation business, employed 9,000 people in the UK. The new company employs 50 people who will work remotely. The new company hopes to sell holidays to up to 50,000 passengers a year and will not have any aircraft, hotels or shops. If Gambia is added to the list of places they will operate, it will be a big boost for our tourism industry, especially amidst the coronavirus pandemic. Ansumane Sonyasi for QTV News.
Ghana is spearheading a new project that explores how small farmers in the ECOWAS bloc can supply produce to the UK once it severs ties with the EU. More in this report.
A team of Ghanaian and British researchers are trading farming ideas at Ghana's University for Development Studies. The team from the University of York are on campus in Tamale for a 6-month collaboration with their West African counterparts. Their work focuses on the potential for small farmers from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to be future suppliers of produce to the UK. The network is simply to look at how to bring the ECOWAS region together to produce and export to the UK markets, says Dr. Akudugu, the lead local facilitator for the Ghana ECOWAS Food Systems and Export Network. The researchers agree that the UK's exit from the European Union could hold opportunities for the 15-member West Africa bloc to negotiate fresh economic partnerships. The UK's existing partnership with Africa's regional economic bloc were made as part of a larger settlement negotiated through the EU. In the event of a no-deal Brexit, renegotiation will be necessary to retain current trade flows. Experts say the UK's withdrawal from the EU is likely to substantially increase the cost for developing countries to access the British market. Researchers also say that standardizing the method of smallholder farmers in the West African economic bloc could drive down export costs, thereby making it cheaper for African products to reach the UK. In 2019, the UK supplied just over half, which is 55% of its domestic food consumption. To keep its supermarket shelves full after a hard Brexit, in which no trade deal with the EU can be reached, some experts suggest the UK would need to tap into the potential of the Commonwealth for its agricultural products. Babakar Sise, Qtv News.
We will take another short break and we continue with international and sports news when we return. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. In international news, Moussa Touré, the former president of Mali who ruled the country for more than 22 years, has died at the age of 83. His death comes after a time when the country is divided over the military junta's transition period, after deposing ex-president Keita on August 18th. And more in this report.
Having seized power in a coup in 1968, Traoré went on to rule Mali for over 2 decades. However, his reign was abruptly ended by a military coup in 1991 following days of violent protests which claimed at least 200 lives. After the coup, he was imprisoned and sentenced to death in 1993. His sentence was commuted to life imprisonment by President Alpha Omar Konaré, and he was finally pardoned in 2002. Meanwhile, Mali remains divided over the military junta's transition period. A recent meeting between junta members and the opposition coalition ended in a stalemate. The opposition coalition has rejected the military's request to have either a civilian or military transitional leader. And on Tuesday, the military junta met with a group of West African leaders in Ghana to outline a transition to civilian rule. However, the two sides failed to reach an agreement. There are unconfirmed reports that the Popular African Youth Movement has called for a sit-in in front of the French embassy on Thursday, September 17th at 10 a.m. to denounce French military forces, and spontaneous demonstrations are expected in other areas of Mali. Having gained independence in 1960, the previous colony of French Sudan changed its name to the Republic of Mali after the dissolution of French West Africa, in a move aimed at reflecting a link with one of Africa's greatest historical kingdoms, the Mali of the Sultan Mansa Musa, fabled for its wealth centered on this region, as did the Gold Coast in changing its name to reflect a link with the great kingdom of Ghana of previous centuries. For Mali, a battle is on for its present and future. Ansmane Sonyasi for Qtv News.
Yoshihide Suga, the former chief cabinet secretary, was elected Prime Minister of Japan on Wednesday following Shinzo Abe's resignation last month due to ill health, having served 8 years in the job, making him Japan's longest-serving Prime Minister.
Suga, who is expected to stick to the policies of his predecessor, has said he will pursue many of Abe's policies, including his signature Abenomics economic strategy of monetary easing, fiscal stimulus, and structural reforms. The 71-year-old is former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's longtime right-hand man. Suga named a new cabinet that included several existing ministers, including Abe's younger brother, Nobuo Kishi, who was named defense minister. Yoshihide Suga faces several huge challenges, including how to revive the Japanese economy. The world's third largest economy shrank a record 27.8% from April to June this year, compared with the previous quarter due to pandemic-related lockdowns that were only relaxed in late May. The country is also dealing with a rapidly aging society, with nearly a third of its population older than 65. He will also look to continue Abe's key foreign policy of maintaining its alliance with the United States, as well as keeping good relations with China. In Japan, Suga is known as a no-nonsense administrator who has earned a reputation for taking on the country's sprawling and powerful bureaucracy to help push through government policies. Along with his new cabinet, Suga will later be ceremonially endorsed by the emperor at the Imperial Palace. Babukar Sise, Qtv News.
On the big story in sports, now they're in trouble, father and son. A former president of the World Athletics, that is Lamin Jack, has been sentenced to 4 years in prison plus another 2 years suspended and fined 500,000 euros after being found guilty of corruption by the French courts. More in this report.
Jack, who led track and field's governing body between 1999 and 2015, was convicted of several charges, including giving and receiving bribes in relation to Russian doping cases so that the country's athletes could compete at the 2012 Olympic Games in London and the 2013 World Championship in Moscow. The court's decision came just only a day after his son, Papa Masata Jack, at a news conference in Dakar, denied corruption and money laundering charges against him and his father, describing them as a conspiracy by the Anglo-Saxons. In the trial, prosecutors revealed that Jack directly or indirectly solicited £3.1 million from athletes to conceal their offences so they could continue competing. It was also revealed that Lamin Jack was also involved in a $1.5 million payment from Russia to finance presidential and legislative election campaigns in Senegal in 2012 in exchange for slowing down doping cases targeting Russian athletes. It is not clear whether the 87-year-old will spend any time in prison, as he has been under house arrest for the past 2 years. William Borden, one of his defense lawyers, had urged the judges not to take a decision that stops him from dying with dignity, surrounded by his loved ones in his native land. Lamin Jack's son, Papa Masata Jack, who is accused of being at the heart of the scheme, and several others refused to attend the trial in Paris, saying that the French court had no jurisdiction as the alleged crimes took place in Russia, Qatar, Senegal, Japan, and Turkey. Jack's son, who was banned for life from athletics in 2016, was sentenced to 5 years in prison and given a €1 million fine. The Jack's trial exposed how corruption was seemingly rift between the scenes at the world body at a time when Usain Bolt was thrilling audiences and making athletics hugely popular. Babukar C, Qtv News.
Before we end this bulletin of the news, let's take a quick look at our main news stories. The draft constitution got a second reading at the National Assembly. QTV accompanied our maritime officials as they inspect various points along the creek from Denton Bridge to Mandinering. The Gambia Press Union held a press conference to respond to the recent decision to bar some media houses from covering proceedings at the National Assembly. An organization is set to provide 10,000 face masks to children across the country. In business news, Thomas Cook, the travel giant which fell into liquidation, is set to return in a slightly different form. And could West Africa help to feed a post-Brexit Britain? We looked at a proposal which may just do that. In international news, as Mali goes through more political turmoil, one of its former presidents has passed away at the age of 83. The Shinzo Abe era comes to an end, and he is replaced as Prime Minister of Japan by a close ally. In sports news, prison sentences and heavy fines handed to father and son duo who were previously heavily involved at the top of world athletics, that is, Lamin Jack and Papa Masata Jack, his son. That's all we have for you in this edition of the news. Thank you very much for watching, and join us at 10 for another bulletin.